When I became president at Schreiner University in January of 2017, I was actually finishing 7.5 years here as provost of Schreiner University. And so, as provost, I had the opportunity to participate in a lot of the initiatives and programs that were underway and taking place. And it's probably relevant for me to note that I was made president not for revolutionary reasons, but for evolutionary reasons. So to continue on some of the work that Dr. Summerlin had been working on. And it's certainly the case that among all the many things that we have to thank him for during his presidency, one of those was the dramatic transformation to the look of the campus. Everything from buildings and landscape that went on. He took what was a pretty campus and made it, from my perspective at least, just a stunningly beautiful campus here in the Hill Country. And so a lot of that work was going on while I was transitioning into the presidency. We'd had the front gate that was finished. We'd done some massive reworking of the quad areas, the landscaping there. And one of the things that we needed to accomplish was creating some new residence hall space. And so really one of the big things that was still on the list when I became president in terms of infrastructure was creation of the Oaks Apartments, and then of course looking ahead to the new freshman residence hall. Now we know it as Baldwin Hall today. It's also the case that when I became president, we have been and will be in a constant consideration of what our academic offerings should look like. So some of those have tremendous longevity, and they were here at the very beginning of Schreiner's history, and they will be here at the very ending of Schreiner's history, I suspect. And then other programs are more subject, I would say, to forces of market demand. So sometimes there's a huge demand for a program, and sometimes that demand falls away. So we're always trying to figure out what are the majors we need to create in order for our students to be as well positioned as possible once they graduate. And we're also looking at the various sort of modalities in which students learn. So, when I first arrived at Schreiner as provost in 2009, we may have had one online class. And over the next decade, we developed whole programs that were online. And now it's not unusual at all for a regular residential undergraduate student to take an online course in any given semester that they're here. So that sort of modality of teaching is something that we're constantly looking at. And then of course the faculty are always working on enhancing their majors too. So how do they improve student learning in the classroom? Sometimes that's by curricular design, the way they put courses together and what they actually teach in the courses. And sometimes it's by the teaching strategies they use within an individual course. So all that's been an important part of this too. And then when I became president, we invested a lot in what we were terming then our varsity program initiative. And the varsity program initiative was really built off of the success we had seen with our shotgun shooting team. That had been just a student organization, so it didn't have any formal structure built around it. Students certainly were competing at a very high level. We had some extraordinary volunteers who helped that be successful. And we realized all of a sudden that there were some students coming to Schreiner because of the quality of that program. And we said, are there other programs like that we can put into place that students feel very passionate about, and that we can use their passion for that activity to become translated into passion for their educational experience at Schreiner? And can we get these programs to achieve such a high level of excellence that students get that taste of excellence and they want to experience it in all other aspects of their educational experience? And so we went through a process of trying to figure out what are the programs that are right for Schreiner, and what are the barriers to entry for any of these programs. So are these things we can really do? And then we set off trying to test some of them, and in some cases we've been successful, and in some cases less successful. So we're always trying to find what's the right mix of these programs for students. So I grew up in Texas. I grew up in a part of Texas that it's called Snyder, Texas. It's right in the middle of Abilene, Lubbock, and Midland. And candidly, I don't think it's the most beautiful part of Texas. Certainly not as compared to the Hill Country. And I ended up moving to the Northeast for about 16 years with my wife. My family was started up there, and that's where I got into higher education. And I was a faculty member, and I had some administrative responsibilities there. And I got the opportunity, or actually I had a colleague of mine tell me there's a place called Schreiner University in Kerrville, Texas that's looking for a provost. And I hadn't heard of Schreiner before. I didn't really know anything about it. And I started reading about it, and I started exploring what it was. And a lot of time, a college or a university, its rhetoric outpaces its reality. And so I didn't really know what to expect about Schreiner. It sounded like a great place, but I didn't know for sure. And I came down here and I visited with folks, and I realized pretty quickly that Schreiner is a place that punches above its weight. It's it's doing things that a school, of its size and with its level of endowment and all of this stuff that perhaps people would say it can't do, and it does those things anyway. And so that was very exciting for me to become a part of a place that was ambitious and was trying to do, trying not just to be its best self, but really trying to be a standard bearer for a lot of colleges and universities across the nation. And I wanted to be a part of that, and it was a great blessing of my life that the president and the administration and the board invited me to come here as provost. And then when Dr. Summerlin announced that he would be retiring, I was very anxious that I might have to move elsewhere. And certainly that's not what my wife and my family wanted us to do. And then the second great blessing of our lives happened, which is that we got to continue here as president. And you ask about, how does it change you? And I will tell you that Schreiner is the sort of place that changes you. Whether you're a student, whether you're a faculty member, whether you're the president here. You learn to believe that what you do matters, and you learn to become engaged in a community, both on campus and off campus, in very deep ways. And you learn that that sign that we have carved on our entrance, "Enter with Hope," that's just not a pithy little saying. There's a sort of deep truth there that governs certainly my entire life now. And I enter this place with hope every day and believe that what we're doing and the students that we're graduating have impacts that we can only barely imagine in these common hours. And it's great fun and a great delight to be part of that. One of the things that I both liked about being provost and that was challenging about being provost is that you're really in the thick of things, and projects that are being implemented because the provost is working alongside other people on campus, whether that's faculty or staff or students. And the president's role, interestingly enough, is a little different. It's a little farther removed from that sort of day-to-day implementation and execution. I will say that the president's role is in some ways more symbolic than the provost role. And so it's important that the president um, does things like shows up for events, whether that's a campus event or whether that's an event that happens within the community. People want to see the president there simply because he or she is the president. That's really not the case with the provost. A lot of people don't even know what a provost is, in fact. And so for me, I think one of the challenges has been to be able to say, I understand the different expectations for each of these roles, and then to live into those expectations appropriately and as best I can.